Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by old friend Jimmy Dore, who has been one of the most consistent people out there against both parties, but specifically the supposedly working class party, the Democratic Party. Jimmy, can I ask you, I'm hearing rumors that you're going to be named Neera Tanden's chief of staff. Is this accurate?
You know what? I don't want to jinx it. But yes, that is supposed to happen. I'm going to launch a Twitter campaign for her, and that's isn't it something that someone in Joe Biden's campaign used to tweet me or whatever they call that? But anyway, that's. I was just wondering, what would it feel like if Joe Biden took a literal piss right in the progressive face, and he did it? It was like, oh my God, he did it. Isn't that something? So I mean. This is what people don't realize, is that the Democrats, like the corporate Democrats, the liberals is what I call them, right? The Joe Bidens, the Neera Tandens, the Hillary Clintons, they hate progressives way more than Republicans hate progressives. So that's the thing progressives don't understand. And so people keep talking about Jordan, and I'm glad you invited me on your show, because I have this idea, because the progressives, they get power or they get elected and then they say we don't have any power, right? Which they don't, but they do have some leverage, right? So right now they have to vote for Nancy Pelosi to be speaker again, right? So we've got at least with Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, and so there's got to be at least 7, 8, 9 really progressive members. You need less than a dozen progressives to tell Nancy Pelosi, I'm withholding my vote for you as speaker unless you promise to bring Medicare for All for a vote on the floor, because it will win. So that's what she has to do. And if she doesn't do that, then we're going to withhold your vote. And if you want to risk Kevin McCarthy becoming speaker, well, that's on your head, because we're willing to play hardball. So that's what they could do right now. No one else is. Don't believe me. They've thought of this, Jordan. So I'm asking everyone to help push them into doing this. Everybody in the squad, Ro Khanna, anybody who's a progressive, who's elected, right, who's in the House. Withhold this is the only leverage you have. This is the moment. And the fucking Tea Party caucus would have done this. Those Freedom Party caucus people, they would do this. And so this is when the progressives can flex their muscle. This is when they have a little bit of leverage. And right now, what they need to do, because they have to vote for Nancy Pelosi when they all get sworn in, they have to say, Nancy, we're not voting for you. I'm sorry, that's sexist. You can't use her first name. Speaker Pelosi, we are going to withhold our vote. It's up to you, because this is popular with 9 out of 10 Democrats. And the only reason you're not bringing it up for a vote is because of obvious corruption. And we need to run on this. And so we're going to bring it up for a vote. And if you don't want to let this come up for a vote, then you're going to lose your speakership. And that's on Nancy Pelosi. That's how you play this game. And so I hope that other people would pick up this message. I would love to eat, because I've said about the squad, this, that I think it's worse to have progressives inside the Democratic Party, because it gives the false impression that the Democratic Party is actually an opposition party, when the Democrats who control the party actually hate progressives more than Republicans do. So I'd love to eat my words and say that it's a fool's errand to have a progressive run inside the Democratic Party, which is what I have been saying. So me, I'm trying to work on a third party with Nick Braun. I mean, Nick Braun is working on it. I'm just doing whatever I can to help. And so those are my solutions, right? But right now, a big solution is we need the progressives who actually have leverage over Nancy Pelosi right now to say, you bring Medicare for all. It's popular with Republicans, for F's sake. The majority of Trump voters want Medicare for all. So if they don't do that, they can do this. So I'm urging them to do it. And if they don't do this, it's got to be over for people thinking progressives are going to do anything except capitulate inside the Democratic Party. But my fingers are crossed, and I'm urging all the other YouTubers who are progressives to get behind this message. And I'm asking you, Jordan, I would hope that you would join me in doing this. And what I can't see a downside for the progressives in Congress doing this. Can you?
I actually agree with you. And the key word you said was leverage. In the past, I don't think progressives have had the leverage. I know you and I probably disagree on certain instances, but here, Democrats have narrowed. Their lead in the House has narrowed. So even though, obviously the Progressive Caucus, whatever, maybe it's between 10 and 15 people, that's going to be key in a lot of votes, not just getting Medicare for All voted on, but Biden cabinet positions. They'll go through committees too in the House and other things. And the Progressive Caucus, which now includes Bowman, Cori Bush, a few others, they have the power, because if they say no with the Republicans, Nancy Pelosi ain't passing anything.
Well, she can't even become speaker without them. So
right.
You're right. You're right. They didn't have leverage. They have it now because Nancy Pelosi is such a horrible leader that she lost seats in the House under Donald Trump. That's how bad and corrupt the Democrats are. That's how little they're offering people. So, and by the way, everybody who ran on Medicare for All, as AOC points out, won their election. And it was the quote-unquote moderates. There's nothing moderate, by the way, about denying people health care in the middle of a pandemic. There's nothing moderate about that. That's radical. What's not radical? Medicare for All. That's how they everywhere. They have it in Barbados. They have it in Rwanda. They have it in Russia. They have it in Israel, Canada, France. They have it everywhere. The place that they don't have it is here. That's what's radical. The radical position is Nancy Pelosi's to stop Medicare for All. That's radical. We're normal.
And what do you think in terms of where the fine line is? Because I know you were very harsh on Bernie, AOC, a lot of these others for not trying to block the CARES Act.
Right.
But on the other end, it was a gigantic shit sandwich. You call it biggest upward transfer of wealth in modern history. I agree. But on the other hand, it seems to me Bernie could have voted against it, but if they would have blocked it, that's a delay in the only good thing, which was the $600 a week unemployment and the stimulus checks. It was not enough, but where is the fine line between standing your ground and fighting now versus, if you block things, people are going to suffer?
So, yes, I make the case that what Bernie Sanders and the progressives should have been doing was alerting people that there was a big theft coming, that there was a big upward transfer of wealth coming, and that the CARES Act didn't have anything in it for them, including a UBI or health care during the middle of a deadly pandemic. But what did it include? $5 trillion upward transfer of wealth. So what Bernie Sanders should have did, and what all the progressives should have done, that happened so fast. It's the shock doctrine, that, Jordan, you know that.
Yeah.
And so what took them months before, in 2008, when Barack Obama was president, they got it done like in a week this time. And so what the CARES Act was the way Dylan Radigan explained it on my show, was that if the United States economy is a car, and your car breaks down on the side of the road and it needs help, what the United States government did when it showed up, it didn't give it more gas. It didn't put gas in the tank or fix the flat. It actually ripped the car radio out of it and still didn't fix the car. The car's still there. It just ripped out whatever it had. So what Bernie Sanders should have did was put a hold on it, warn people what was happening to make sure we got something, a health care or UBI or something in that bill. Those people, Nancy Pelosi said, whatever you think you're going to do later or whatever you want to do, whatever you have a problem with in this bill, we are passing this now. That's what she said when Wall Street wanted their money. What did she say when actual people wanted their money? If Donald Trump wants his name on a check, that ain't going to happen. So what AOC said about the CARES Act was true, that that $1,200 payment and that unemployment insurance were crumbs. Those were crumbs. She was correct when she said that. The thing that she was incorrect was that was because of Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell. That was because also, just as guilty, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, who negotiated that bill. And the problem I had with Bernie Sanders was that he went out and gave a grandstanding speech for the unemployment insurance, and people then falsely thought that he did that to get us the unemployment insurance. That is not what happened. There was already a deal in place. Michael Bennett wrote that part of the unemployment insurance. It was already guaranteed to go through. Bernie gave a grandstanding speech. And then he bullshitted people into thinking that's what got us that, and that didn't happen. And so what is the point of voting for progressives if they go to, they're not, by the way, it would have passed if they voted against it. but it was 96-0.
Right.
Bernie Sanders voted against the Iraq War. Why not vote against the largest upward transfer of wealth in the history of human race? So you can warn people what's coming. Right now, there are thousands of people in food lines in Texas. There's people sleeping under bridges, on top of bridges here in frickin' Pasadena, California. And that's because the CARES Act didn't do anything to take care of people, and they got no plans to take care of people. So as Norman Solomon said about the Squad, what is the point of voting for progressives if they're going to vote to expand their surveillance state anyway? I say there is no point. What's the point of voting for them when they go there and they vote for the largest theft in the history of our country without getting you anything for it? That's when they had leverage. The oligarchs wanted their $5 trillion. That's when they had leverage. That's when they bent the knee to Nancy Pelosi. They did it on a voice vote. Only guy to ask for a recorded vote was Thomas Massie. Okay, so they don't even have the guts to stand by their vote. And now nobody, Jordan, nobody is holding their feet to the fire for that vote. In fact, they do the bullshit line of saying, oh, well, we had to get the unemployed, the $1,200 payment, and that was put there so they could say that while they gave $5 trillion to the richest people in the world. I know that. Dylan Radigan knows that. But you know what they also know is that no one's going to hold their feet to the fire because people took the bait. That the cheese in the trap was that $1,200 payment and the unemployment. That was the cheese in the trap. And now it's all over. That $5 trillion went upward. It's fucking over. And people are sleeping in the streets, in food lines, and unemployed. If you're in the upper 10% of wealth earners, you got no trouble. You probably got more free time than you ever had. But if you're not in that upper 10%, you're losing your job, you're losing your health care, you're treading water, and now they've got no leverage to get anything done ever. And they bullshitted you about what they got you. So the least they should have did was warn everybody that there was a fucking theft happening. They didn't do that. The most we got was AOC said that it was the Republicans' fault for giving us crumbs in this bill. That was as close as she was come. But of course, everyone knows the Democrats run the House. They couldn't pass the CARES Act unless Nancy Pelosi made that happen. Nancy Pelosi made that happen. She made it happen without a UBI. She made it happen without health care for people in the middle of a fucking pandemic. She made it happen without any plans to help people with rent. She helped without any plans to help people with their mortgage. There's a foreclosure crisis coming. And the last time Joe Biden was in the White House, there was another foreclosure crisis. You know what his solution was? Kick 5.1 million families out of their house. I bet he's going to do the same thing.
Well, I said at the time, I mean, this is a grand bank robbery, and Nancy Pelosi's driving the getaway car. I mean, they're kind of in on it together. Maybe the Republicans were, opening the safe, but Pelosi was outside and she drove away. So I agree. I wanted to ask you specifically about Bernie. I mean, I know you've had starker words than I have. I do criticize him. I just don't call him a coward in these things. However, Bernie strikes me right now as kind of doing what Obama did. Like, Obama ran on all these platitudes, but he had this massive organizing army, and he left them on the White House lawn. I mean, he didn't use it, and then just threw up his hands and said, well, Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan can't do anything. I mean, Bernie didn't win the presidency, but, I mean, his Slack channel has more people than DSA has signed up. I mean, just the sheer apparatus that Bernie's campaign over 4 years created, you could be doing serious things. And if you want to take him at face value, maybe you disagreed, but all right, he said, we're going to get Biden in, and then we're going to fight him on day one. Well, it's day one, and I don't really hear anything from Bernie right now. I'm pretty sure he's smart enough to know he's not going to get a White House parking pass, much less labor secretary. Why do you think he's not using that army? Because right now you just have these different islands, Sunrise Movement, Justice Democrats, but it's not an organized progressive movement to tap into this leverage you're speaking of.
Why do I think...
Because I don't think I understand your anger. I don't think he's a coward. I think he's really bad at politics. I think he's really bad at power politics.
Okay, we could, whatever descriptors we want to use. Kyle Kalinske calls him a cuck. I call him a coward. You call him bad at politics. When the rubber meets the road, Bernie Sanders capitulated to the machine. Bernie Sanders threw his movement under the bus. Bernie Sanders didn't extract anything after 4 fucking years, did nothing. They cheated him. He did nothing to make sure they didn't cheat him again. It's just, and instead of doing something like I wanted them to do, was to actually build an organization outside the Democratic Party. By the way, that's not my idea. That's Bernie Sanders' idea. Bernie Sanders said before Before he became popular, he used to say there has to be a rainbow coalition and it has to happen outside the Democratic Party. That's what he used to say. And then as soon as he got popular, he stopped saying that because the Democratic Party put the fucking screws to him and he bends the knee. And what is the point of fucking voting for a guy who does that? I don't really know. He voted for the largest upward transfer of wealth in the history of the human race, and he got shit for it. And there's no answering for that, and he'll never make up for it. And he then threw his movement under the bus fucking for Joe Biden. So he'll never make up for that. And by the way, the point is, you know how they all voted for it, the Iraq War, so then nobody's to blame. It's the same thing. Everybody voted for the CARES Act, so nobody's to blame. And fucking they know that. Ro Khanna came on my show and gave me that bullshit excuse about, oh, well, we had to get that $1,200. You mean the crumbs? The shit that AOC called crumbs? You guys got fucking rolled and you went along with it. You didn't even vote against it. They could have, and it would have still passed, but they voted for it. That's how fucked up the two-party politics are.
Well, I also think with Bernie, to me, listen, he was 10 days away from possibly clinching the Democratic nomination. He's on 60 Minutes. That's your first and probably best opportunity to kind of cater to those older voters that have been programmed and brainwashed that you're a radical boogeyman. And it seems to me he just kind of got roped into this Cuba stuff and other stuff, but he never actually tweaked his message. You might not agree with me, but I don't think progressives can win electorally unless they slice off, 5-10% of that older voter. And I think those older voters, by the data, actually are closet progressives. They've just been programmed. Biden, Super Tuesday, the exit polls showed the majority of his voters decided in those final days. They weren't sold on Joe Biden, but why did they decide for Biden? He had $100 million of never-ending cheerleading on MSNBC, CNN. That you remember that Pete, Beto, Amy pep rally? So it seems to me Bernie never even tried to win those voters because he was very, very focused on the young voters and expanding the electorate and all these things. Do you think progressives need to try to cater to some of these voters, or you just want scorched earth?
I don't. I gave my opinion on why I think Bernie lost the primary. There's many reasons. I think the biggest reason is he didn't articulate what the problem was, and the problem was, hey, how do we get Donald Trump? And he never told us. He got Donald Trump because the Democratic Party, which is what he told us the first time, he was saying this is how screwed up shit is, and the second time he just started running around saying Donald Trump is. You know what I know from Bernie Sanders' campaign? I know two things about Bernie Sanders. I know that he thinks Donald Trump is the most corrupt president in the history of the country, which is patently not true. I also know that he thinks Joe Biden is his good friend. That's all I fucking know. That's it. So that's a shitty campaign. He sounded like every other Democrat. He wouldn't go after Joe Biden. He wouldn't fucking say what the problem was. He wouldn't turn to Joe Biden and say, the reason why you don't understand the math behind Medicare for All, Joe, is because you're bought. And because you're paid to not understand it. He wouldn't say anything. He wouldn't even run a fucking campaign against them. He went beyond cowardly. Kyle uses the term cuck. It was Chris Hedges predicted it. So I feel like the fucking idiot, right? I'm the dummy. But I told them all along, don't do this. Don't run inside that party. Fucking do something else. That's how you actually will have power over them. But believe me, how you can run for president and not criticize Joe Biden and say the guy was in office the last time. That's why we got Donald Trump. You want to know why we got Donald Trump? He's fucking standing right next to me. That's why. You want to know why we got Donald Trump? Because this guy's going to deny you health care. Because this guy's been bought and paid for. Because this guy's also a pathological liar. And everyone knows it. By the way, he's demented.
Yeah. I was slamming him after these debates because, the guy has literally made up his entire civil rights record, which, I don't know. I tend to feel like people don't like being lied to. I got arrested meeting Mandela in South Africa. I participated in civil rights sit-ins. I didn't pal around with Strom Thurmond. You're right. He didn't want to go for the jugular. Going forward, to me, I think that, Biden is literally unveiling a hall of fame of corporatist, warmonger neoliberals. It's actually like the arrogance of it I didn't expect. I thought they'd sprinkle in maybe one or two progressives, hold the keys kind of positions. But to me, what is the path? Because I'm beginning to hear from more and more people when I'm on the streets, when I'm covering protests and this and that, people are starting to prepare for outside of electoral politics strategies, really, really doubling down on let's get more people unionized. Let's not just strike against Amazon for one day. Let's do it for a week. Let's do it for a month. Do you see that the progressive movement needs to not only focus on, congressional Senate leadership, but maybe use this terrible pandemic to our advantage? There's a whole lot more people struggling than before the pandemic, not just progressives. There's a whole lot of people that have nothing left to lose. Isn't now the time to try and build a movement of economic protest?
So one of the criticisms I hear launched at me often in our show, Jimmy Dore show, is that we don't have any solutions, that we're just critics. And I've have plenty of solutions. The first one, of course, is ranked choice voting. The second one would be direct action. I have a strike page at my website. We've had union leaders, organizers, we've Christian Smalls from Amazon, all kinds of people on our show advocating, people from Portland, international workers unions, all kinds of people. That's another solution, right? So direct action, that's exactly what you're talking about. And that's exactly what we need. And then the third thing would be a third party, which I've stuck my chin out for a long time saying we need to. I've advocated for that. I voted for Jill Stein in 2016, and I certainly didn't vote for Joe Biden. So those would be the three things, and I'm doing what I can to help build a third party. Nick Brana's doing most of the work, and he's got great people with him. Cornel West is helping, and Nina Turner, and there's lots of people involved. Mike Gravel, and there's all kinds of people. So I'm going to leave out people, so I'll stop naming them. But I agree with you. I think direct action, and I think a third party. And it obviously running progressives inside the Democratic Party is not working at all because everything gets worse every day. Can anyone point to a victory?
Yeah, well, they've been winning piecemeal. Every cycle, we're winning seats, but that's not changing the balance of power. Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. What have they gotten out of that? What do we get? So now instead of Joe Crowley voting for Nancy Pelosi to fuck over everybody, we have AOC voting for Nancy Pelosi to fuck over everybody. She promised, Jordan, let me just say, she promised. I had Glenn Greenwald on my show last week, and he said that, he thought AOC was going to be different. And he met with her, and she said that she was telling the truth about Israel, and she promised not to vote for Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer. And then the first thing she did was fucking flip-flop, fill her office with people who were friendly to the Democratic Party, and vote for Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer. And then he said, I knew that was over. And I said, yeah, I should have known it then too, but yeah, I think that was when it happened for me. So I agree with you. We got to have direct action. I don't know how much longer you can deny people fucking health care. I just don't get how people put up with that shit. I just don't get how people put up with that.
With mutating viruses that might have a part 2, part 3.
And so the pandemic did prove, Jordan, that the essential workers are not hedge fund managers or Wall Street executives. They are the people who work at Amazon. They are the people who work at the grocery stores. They're the people who work at UPS. They're the people who work at the hospitals. These are the essential workers. And if here in California, our grocery stores, Ralph's, everybody has a Ralph's in their neighborhood, they go grocery store. If the Ralph's closed down, believe me, it would shut down the fucking state and shit would happen. They have so much power. And so I agree with you. The union, I've had lots of union organizers on my show, lots of videos out there. I'm not smart enough to know how to do something like that, but I give anybody a platform who wants to do. Why wasn't Bernie using what we need is a general strike?
Right.
Right now, there's 200 million people striking in India. Did you know that? Yep. On November 27th, 200 million fucking people went on strike in India. Did you hear about that in the United States? You did not hear about that. And I wonder why. It's because your media is bought.
Well, I think it's a domino effect, because why was the Yellow Vest movement in France successful in getting some concessions from Macron? Because they have health care. So they're not gravely afraid to protest. If they lose their jobs, so be it. They'll find another one, but they have health care. So I think that is a major source of power that the Wall Street and the corporate, the United Corporations of America, I call it, keep over people. It's not just depriving them of health care. It's scaring the living shit out of them from protesting because you'll be left, on the street with no insulin or whatever it is.
I'm not smart enough to understand why this is so hard. I guess the answer is obvious. Why can't... I remember after Donald Trump got elected, I turned to Cenk Uygur, I was still at the Young Turks, and I said, let's do something concrete. And he said, what? I said, let's unionize all the Walmart workers in California. Let's figure out how to do it, and let's fucking do it. And he had other ideas, so we never joined forces on that. And I just still don't understand. I mean, I get why, because they'll, it's hard. They'll kill you. They'll do that. There's, they're hiring Pinkertons. Right. And shit. I get how they push back against union. They'll fire people. They threaten people's jobs, and those are the people in desperate situations. I get that's how they. But you would think there'd be some kind of charismatic leader that would come along to be able. Well, in Texas, when the Walmart meat packers unionized, Walmart got rid of meat packing in Texas. That's just what they did. So that's how they're willing to play rough like that. But I'm telling you, if the UPS driver or how. And here's the thing I don't understand. So we got to keep doing these lockdowns for COVID. Why is it that a sporting goods store has to lock down, but fucking Amazon doesn't? Because a sporting goods store would have 10 people inside of it, but Amazon has 1,000 people inside their fucking warehouse. Why do they get all that sporting goods business, but the guy who with the small business has to shut down? And if you're going to make that guy with the small business shut down, you got to take some of those profits from fucking Amazon and give it to that guy, because that's not a fair economic system you're using right now, and we need to have so you see what I'm saying, right? Well,
because the sporting goods store didn't pay off every level of government.
That's right.
And Bezos did. The devil's advocate, I want to ask you, because people who say no, keep fighting to take over the Democratic Party within would say, Jimmy, yeah, I'm not opposed to a third party, but this corporate oligarchy was not built overnight. So you expecting to take over the Democratic Party in just 4 years is giving false hope to your viewers. You're being impatient, people would say. And the wins that we have scored, 10 to 15 progressive victories over the last 4 years, Sunrise Movement, some small victories, are steps in the right direction. Why not continue in that direction rather than a third party?
Well, if it was just 4 years, that would be one thing. This has been 40 years. So this has been 40 years. This started, Bill Clinton told, the idea that Bill Clinton was the lesser of two evils with George Herbert Walker Bush, again, is arguable. I say it wasn't. He wasn't. He certainly wasn't when it came to Bob Dole.
He got way more Republican shit done than George Bush ever would have.
That's exactly right. People don't realize that George Herbert Walker Bush couldn't pass NAFTA. It took a Democrat to come in and give those blue dog Democrats cover for voting against unions and cutting the fucking legs out from underneath unions. And that's what Bill Clinton was able to achieve, which a Republican wasn't. Just like he was able to do that at the same time he was gutting welfare and exploding the prison population, and then deregulated Wall Street and also deregulated the media, which is why we have a concentrated 6 companies that run all the media now. So if Bill Clinton was able to do that, they would not have let George Herbert Walker Bush do that shit. They would have been protests against it, but because Bill Clinton, a Democrat who was being attacked by the right wing all the time, then people rallied around him and they helped him pass his deregulation of Wall Street, which crashed our economy within a fucking decade, right? And then we get Barack Obama. And why did we get Barack Obama president? Barack Obama took us from 2 wars to 7. He opened the Arctic to drilling twice. He made the banks bigger while he kicked 5.1 million families out of their house. He built those cages that Trump put those immigrants in. He deported way more Hispanics than Donald Trump did, which I predicted the day Donald Trump was elected that would happen. So the lesser of two evil was not Barack Obama. They would never let John McCain do that shit. So I want a wolf in wolf's clothing. I don't want a wolf in sheep's clothing. And progressives inside the Democratic Party are not only a wolves in sheep's clothing, they're wrapped up like little baby lambs going bah. So I don't need that. That's a big head fake. That if you think that the takeover of the Democratic Party is happening, I bet it'll happen 5 years after climate change kills us all. So the idea that, and they have zero power right now, the progressives have leverage enough to get Medicare for All up for a vote. Are they going to use it, Jordan? Are even other progressives in the media going to pressure them to do that? Fucking no.
I wanted to lastly ask you, you look a lot better in the last few years because of the Russian boogeyman. You were very frail, very nervous, scared. I understand, definitely a lot of therapy bills because of all this. Are you sleeping better now? Because obviously there's no Russian threat anymore. The Democrats have retaken the White House.
Isn't it great that the Democrats can run their Isn't it funny they blamed Russia for rigging the election when it was Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Hillary Clinton who completely rigged the 2016 primary? I mean, that's why Debbie Wasserman Schultz had to step down. That's what Donald Brazil found out. There was a secret contract. The people who rigged the elections are Democrats. And who do they rig them against? Progressives. But yeah, I think, I don't know if you've...
it's just disappeared from discussion.
That just disappeared. It's amazing how it just went away. I thought Russia was all powerful. Turns out not. Hey, it's in my lifetime I saw McCarthyism come back from on the left, Cold War come back on the left. It's not, Russiagate came back from the left, and now pro-censorship is coming from the left. It's fucking nuts, man. I don't know which way is up. That's why we need a third party. I think Nick Brana's People's Party, which is focused on economics, just like what you were talking about. It's not focused on quote unquote culture issues. It's focused on brass tacks policies that help workers, right? Medicare for all. That's the big thing. And we want to get money out of politics. That's it. You get money out of politics, we can at least have an honest discussion about policy. But with money in politics, that's what perverts everything, and you're never having an honest conversation.
Thank you for taking the time. Make sure, subscribe to Jimmy's show if you haven't. YouTube and all its fuckery has been messing with Jimmy, me, many others, unsubscribing people. They hide us in a cave. This is the censorship that he's talking about, and it's only going to get worse. So I appreciate you coming on, Jimmy.
Okay, I appreciate. Hey, what happened to Glenn Greenwald is not going to stop. Once Joe Biden starts his 2 new wars, at least he's going to start 2 new ones, and you start to report accurately on it, Jordan, they're going to censor you. And
by the way, I'm not hearing any chorus to pressure Joe Biden to reverse the likely extradition of Julian Assange. Biden likes to take credit for everything Obama did or didn't do. Well, Obama didn't prosecute Julian Assange, so maybe he should reverse that because he's already being psychologically and physically tortured now for a year.
I mean, the point is, Jordan, it's going to come down to people like you and me and our other because the mainstream media is not going to do it. It's going to come down to us to actually keep pointing out to people, this is what they could be doing, this is what they should be doing. And what they could be doing right now is getting us to vote for Medicare for All. And if they don't do that, Jordan, doesn't that just kind of defeat the argument of trying to take over the Democratic Party? Because even once they get in there and they have leverage, they don't fucking use it anyway.
Right now, I 100% agree. They have the leverage. They should be demanding. We're not just mindlessly voting for you, Nancy Pelosi. You're 80 years old. You've lost more than you've won over the last decade. So, yeah, we need... And you're not asking for passage. You're asking for a vote, for a debate.
Just a vote.
Yeah.
Just a vote.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, Jordan. Thank you so much, buddy. Good luck to you.
Thanks, man. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.